Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Car Addiction, and today we're going to talk about why do you need to spend the money to get an AEM tru-boost setup against a manual boost controller. We all know a tru-boost setup is, in Canadian dollars, it's close to $500 for a tru-boost setup, whereas you can get some sort of a ready manual boost controller or something like that for less than $100 all day long, every day. If this is your first time in my channel, I'm a huge Nissan enthusiast. I have two 300ZX twin turbo. I have an R32 Skyline. I have an MR2. I don't know why somebody buy that off me. I have a Nissan Xterra, which is possessed by the devil himself. And I have which it's costing me so much right now, it's not even funny. I broke the all-wheel drive system because I am genius, I'm smart. I figured out a way to basically turn the transactional gears into dust. That video is coming too. So there are a lot of shenanigans happens in this channel, a lot of mistakes, a lot of financial mistakes. So if you're under 21 years old and below, stop, watch a cat video, talk to a female, enjoy your life. Don't be a car enthusiast. Now the warning is done. Let's show you what the product is. As you can see, I already started working on it. Just like pretty much every other project that I do, I start working on it. And then I realized, oh, hold on a second. I actually should make a video about it. Well, here we are. Hopefully it's not too late. So as you can see in the box, first of all, you have the gauge. It is a digital gauge inside. And then you also have a visual representation over here. On a separate video, I'm going to show you how to adjust this gauge. But let's say right now, you have this gauge set up at 20 PSI. So when you are at 10 PSI, there is going to be a light that goes, it will be half in the middle, and then it will go up accordingly. So there's not only a digital numerical gauge, it also has a visual gauge too. Now, if you don't like the black inserts, it comes with an extra insert. This black section, there is a silver section, and even this faceplate comes with a silver faceplate to go with the white facing on it. To me, it doesn't really matter. I actually like the black better. It blends in better with the black interior of the vehicle. Then it is the most important bits, boost control solenoid. Setting this up, it is the hardest part. Once you set this up, wire it correctly, everything else is piece of cake, really piece of cake. Then the wiring, that's why I said setting this up is hard, because I already started marking these wires, because there are 6 wires and I will put them together. These are 12 volts, ground, that's a scrambler boost warning. And this one is a, that's a scrambler boost, and this is a warning boost. So that's all you basically need. Now this piece, it literally plugs into the back of it, and that's how the gauge gets its power. And of course, comes with a bunch of vacuum hoses. You're gonna need this, maybe more, especially in my 300ZX twin turbo, because I had to connect both the turbos. I needed a lot more boost. I needed a lot more vacuum wire than this, but this setup is for my Skyline because I already have a tru-boost in my 300ZX. In the Skyline, a lot of the wiring is already done, so I don't see myself using more than 5 feet of this wire. Now let's come to the point, why do you need a AEM tru-boost controller over a conventional, just a boost gauge or a manual boost controller? First, let's talk about the difference between a controller, gauge, and a manual boost controller. A boost gauge is just a gauge. It will show reading of the boost. You can't do anything. You can't control it. All it's going to do is show you how many PSI or how much vacuum it is. Next is a manual boost controller. A manual boost controller is not a boost gauge. It's a metal piece where you have a knob where you turn. Problem with the manual boost controller is when you turn the knob, you don't exactly know what kind of boost you're putting out unless you have a boost gauge. So you not only have to get a manual boost controller, you also have to get a boost gauge for these two systems to work together. And it has their own set of wirings and blah, blah, blah. A tru-boost eliminates all of that. Both of those systems in one. And that's why you pay the money. The benefit of going with the tru-boost is, first of all, the boost gauge is inside the vehicle, and also to adjust the boost on the fly, all you have to do is press one of these buttons. Where a manual boost gauge, you have to pull over, go under your hood, and adjust it. There are manual boost gauge options available where they will have a boost line long enough that you can bring the manual boost controller inside the vehicle. So if you have a manual boost controller inside the vehicle and a boost controller gauge, you can somehow eliminate this in a very rudimentary way, but I will come to that in a bit. Problem with that is you don't know how much boost it increases per click every time you turn the boost controller. Let's say if you're flying down the highway right now, all of a sudden you want 2 psi of boost, you turn, but what if it gave you 4 psi of boost? And that leans your motor and you get a knock or you detonate. That's a very costly mistake. You need a new motor right after that. What these does is you can program this boost controller without a laptop. I'm going to make a different video on showing you how to program this. And you can press a button on the fly. So that way I have this set up in my 300ZX is the right button, it increases the boost, left button, it decreases the boost. I have my boost solenoid set up at 50% duty cycle, and every time I press, it gives me 2 psi. Most of the time I run at 12 psi, and whenever I kind of need a bit of more boost, I click this, bumps me to 14, and then whatever I have to do, I will do my business and click that to bring it down, because 14 psi with my current setup is about 98% injected duty cycle, which is kind of dangerous. You don't want to go over 80% of injected duty cycle. That's probably a discussion for another whole set of videos. So hit the subscribe button. Those videos are also coming. Now, you not only can do that, also if you have a engine management system, let's say an AEM, Infinity, Motec, Haltech, or some of these very fancy standalone engine management system, this has these connectors that you can actually connect this to your engine management system and literally program this to run boost by gear. That is fantastic. The way boost by gear works is, let's say in first gear you have a little lower boost setting so you don't spin the wheels too much. It helps you get more traction. The higher the gear you go, the more boost you get. Let's say fourth gear, which is 1:1 in the transmission input shaft and output shaft ratio, you will get the full boost. If I have this set up in my 300ZX with a 740cc injector system, I will probably run 20 psi in fourth gear, where I will run no more than 10 on first, and then second, third, fourth, increase progressively. That way you're out of the hole faster, and the more speed you generate, the more powerful your car gets. And that's how you hunt down Mustangs, Corvettes, and six-figure vehicles that didn't know that your shitbox can pull them down. So let's shortlist the pros of the boost controller over a manual boost controller. First of all, this boost gauge is very, very precise compared to a manual boost controller or a standard boost gauge. Next feature is it has a warning setup. So for some reason, if your boost is too much, it will give you a warning and it will actually bleed the boost so that you don't overboost your system, overboost your car, and get into knock or detonation. You can set up a warning feature, and that's just a safety and insurance for your vehicle. A couple of $100 more than buying a manual boost controller and a boost gauge. This is a well worth investment. Next feature is you can set up at what PSI the waste gauge will crack. So you can set it up at a low crack, let's say a 3 or 4 PSI crack. That way your turbos will spool a lot faster and you will have a harder acceleration than a manual boost controller. That justifies the extra cost to me. It does have a scramble boost feature. There is a way you can have it set up that way. If you need X amount of power on the fly, you can access that power. Let's say for me, I have set it up at 12 PSI, but when I need the extra power, I manually go and press a button so that it gives me 2 PSI. But let's say you have a highly built motor, you casually run 16, but your scramble boost is 25. Then you have to press this button way too many times and it takes a lot of time. You can set up a scramble boost at 25 and then one click, you'll get the 25 right away. And that's how you hurt people with six-figure cars. Oh, I feel so good. This system works on a duty cycle rather than a screw-on or a lever system. This, if you change the duty cycle by 5%, that may allow you a half a PSI gain rather than a screw-on or a lever system where you just can't adjust it or change it. And the last setting is you can actually have 2 setups inside the same boost controller. So you can have a setting A with your duty cycle, with your scramble boost, a warning boost, and a regular boost, and then a boost setting B. So people who has a multi-fuel setup, let's say you have a 93 octane tune, but you also have a E85 or some sort of a methanol fueling system, you can use this to have 2 different boost setups so that whichever fuel you're running at that point, you can change it on the fly, which you can't do. It's impossible to do in a manual boost controller system or a boost gauge. Let's talk about cons. First con is there's a lot of wiring needs to be done. You need to be comfortable cutting and splicing and, expensive wiring harnesses that will be near and dear to fix if you screw up. Second, yes, it does come with a lot of vacuum hose, but the trick is to have the shortest amount of vacuum that you can have. So you have to wire it in a way that there's the shortest amount of run from the turbo or the waste gauge to the solenoid, and solenoid to the controller. With my 200ZS twin turbo, it is not possible. There's two turbos on the two other side of the motor. I did a very short run between the turbos and the solenoid because my solenoid is right in front of the motor, the shortest one. That made a 6 or 7 feet, it's probably a 6 feet run from the solenoid to the vacuum gauge, which can't really do much. I don't really have an option. But the right thing to do is keep the lines as short as you can. In terms of efficiency, that's where I'm gonna say there's a possible gain with a manual boost controller, because you can have the controller really close. But there are a lot of other features in this one that can eliminate that need and set you up for success. Anyway, thank you for making it to the end of the video. If this is your first time, please hit the like and subscribe button. And there are a lot more cool stuff coming in, and stay tuned for all the shenanigans coming in this channel.